Okay, folks, tomorrow's Canada Day, which is equivalent to Confederation Day, formerly known as Dominion Day. Dominion didn't sound really great, so we got rid of it in the 80s. But anyway, it's Confederation Day, and I decided to make delightful strawberry shortcakes because I haven't had that in a while, and I certainly haven't had it homemade in a while. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spruce it up. I've got 2 pints, maybe 1.5 pints of only the good strawberries. I've cut them in half. If they're large, I cut them in quarters, but they are not very large, so mostly we're in half. So I'm going to macerate them. That sounds violent, but it isn't. It just means you add a little sugar. Here I'm adding 1/4 cup. And we're just going to mix that up and let the juices come out. So the maceration just means the juices come out. And that takes about an hour. Now, if you wanted to stop right here, you could, and they would be delightful. You could also refrigerate this for tomorrow. But I have some basil, and I want to spruce this version up. So I'm going to chiffonade some basil into tiny pieces. All right? Use the curvature of the knife. I want to do a little bit of a hint of basil here. And I'm going to do the same. And now basil is kind of a soft, flat leaf. So I'm going to save these little babies for garnish. And they might turn, oh, there's somebody shooting off what sounds like a gun, but it's just big boys shooting off firecrackers that sound like a big bang. Big bangs are really cool. Anyway, so I'm going to then do the same with a little bit tougher leaf of mint, fresh mint. And so it's going to be basil and mint. Classic recipes do not require either of these. And certainly if you wanted to be more classic, you would omit the basil and you would possibly add the mint as garnish on your whipped cream. I'm going to do vanilla whipped cream, but I don't like to do everything classic. I do like classic tagliatelle, beef over arugula. But I also like to spruce things up. For instance, my shortcakes are gonna have, I think that's enough, just enough. You don't wanna be eating a salad when you're eating your dessert, but just enough to flavor. So you don't even have to cover this. Leave it for an hour. If you want to do the rest tomorrow, put it in the fridge with some plastic wrap. And I'm going to take my second 1/4 cup of sugar and putting it in a mixing bowl to begin my biscuits, because this shortbread is going to be individual biscuits. And we're going to love that. And then I'm going to do vanilla whipped cream, a vanilla chantilly, crème chantilly, which means a little sugar and a little vanilla. Okay, bye. Oh, by the way, in Chantilly, in France, the chef who introduced it had a big argument with a Parisian chef in the early 1800s, because he said that Chantilly must have egg whites. And of course, We don't do it with egg whites anymore, so I guess we know who won. The Count of Chantilly's chef did not win. Okay, so the strawberries are macerating. I've got some butter. I need 6 tablespoons. That's 84 grams. I'm using grams because that's what I know. It's lactancia. Believe it or not, that's produced about 15 minutes north of here by car. And we'll just do, that's 29. This is cold, by the way, that's 53. That's 62. We want 84. We can break it up if we want. That's 77. The reason it's cold is because we're making short biscuits, and short biscuits have more shortening than they do liquid. So that's 82, and that's 84. Perfect. Turn that off. Put this back in the fridge. So then we have, this can be done by hand, and in fact it's normally done by hand with a fork, but you know, that's how our grandmothers did it. So I have a 1/4 cup of sugar that we put in the bowl earlier. I'm going to use that for liquid measures. I'm going to add 2 cups of flour. I could have used my finger. Anyway, don't press down. You'll have a very tough biscuit. Okay, that's 1. That's 2. Well, it's not quite 2. I gotta get more flour. So I'm just kind of jiggling this across because I know it will make 1. Okay, that's 2. We have our sugar, our flour. We need salt, obviously. This can go away. A teaspoon of salt. All baked good needs salt. That's a whole teaspoon. Here's a half. Okay, that's kosher salt. Doesn't matter what kind, because once the liquid gets in there, it's going to blend nicely. So the thing that I'm using, why I'm using this mixer, is because with the paddle attachment and the pieces of cold butter, the paddle will get it into the little pea-sized pea-sized pieces easier, faster than I could do with a fork. And we're going to add the paddle and get it going. Then I'm going to get the cream and the egg. So that's on low while I get together the cream and the egg. So I'm making 1/4 sugar, and that will be added with 1 whole egg. We're making the wet ingredients, and then we're gonna do 1/2 cup of cream, and we're gonna do 2 more tablespoons of cream. Let's see here. I also omitted the fact that that you need quite a bit of baking powder in the dry ingredient, so I'll need a tablespoon of that also. And then here I'm gonna add, I don't know, it's not a lot of liquid. I'd say a 1/4 teaspoon of this, maybe overflowing vanilla. Natural extract, not artificial, please. And we're just gonna get our whisk this up. And that's the wet ingredients. So we have our dry ingredients that have been mixed with the paddle, and I've got these nice lumps. Actually, they're a little big, but it's better bigger than smaller, because they create a lot of rise. And also this is going to get beaten together a little more with the 1 tablespoon of baking powder, which is quite a lot. But you need that, along with the butter, that provides the flakiness and the rise. So there's that. Let's get that going together. I'm gonna turn it up a bit so that we get maybe some of the butter broken down. And then I'm gonna station up a bit. Now I have my tray, I have my oven heating to 375. I have a silk pat on my tray, and some of the butter and nonsense is falling on it. But that's a bit easier than the measuring out parchment paper. So I'm gonna put this on low, and actually before I put it on low, I want to put some, I gotta get my rolling pin out, and I've got to get my flour on the board. So there's some flour on the board. The thing is, you could do this. You don't really need a rolling pin. It's just convention, but it also helps. Okay, so got that on low. We're adding the liquid. Which includes the sugar, the vanilla, and the egg. And the thing is, this is normally kind of wants to be done by hand because you don't want to overwork it. So we take it out before it's done because there's lots of flour on the bottom. And just turn it out onto the, that means we're up to temperature. Good timing. I can't get that off. Okay, there we go. Let's get this out. And you'll see that there's some flour left. That's not incorporated. But that's also good because now we know we didn't over mix it. When you do it by hand, it's a little bit hard to over mix. But when you do it in the machine, there's a high likelihood you won't over mix it. So basically, we're gonna form it into a ball and just keep it close. Get rid of all the excess. Got a lot of flour on here. And then basically, you can see all the butter? Don't know if you can see all the butter. See these pieces? That's what you want to see. We're gonna make a 6 by 6 inch rectangle. I'm using my frozen, can you see it? Okay, I'm using my frozen pin. Anyway, so that's it. It doesn't seem like it's 6 by 6. And this doesn't feel like it's holding, but it's better not to fiddle with it. Okay, if you know what I mean. I have a measuring, but I'm gonna say that's 8, and that's probably 6. So let's do our cuts. I'm using a 2.5 cutter, cookie cutter, and we're gonna put them on my tray. Remember, I'm not making like enough for a crowd. I only had, I don't know, a little bowl of strawberries. Let's just do this. and see how much we get. It is possible to recombine the dough one more time before losing capacity. So that's 1, 2, 3. I wanted to get 6 total. So there's the fourth one. Okay. This is, I can squish this in and get a 5th one. Remember, it's getting warm and these have to go in. So that looks great, but I know that this would be wasteful if I didn't try. So I'm just gonna, you can do one more roll of this kind of shortbread, short pastry. Is it a short pastry? It's a shortcake. That's the same thing, but cake form. So I'm gonna do one more nice thick one, and the rest I'm gonna save for later. I might cook it off. And this is where we depart from tradition. We're gonna take that out of the way. I'm gonna put an egg yolk in here. Okay. Just I gotta get the whites out and you can't see that on camera. Oh, I just want a dash of cream. 3 tablespoons, but I think that's excessive. So that's more like 2. Then I gotta get my fork to whisk it. And I'm going to diverge from traditional biscuit making here by getting out my sanding sugar for crunch. And I'm gonna add some beautiful sliced almonds to go with the strawberries. And they don't have to be toasted because they'll be on top. And they won't be toasted for sure. So I need my lovely pastry silicone brush, which is very delicate and works nicely. And I'm just doing the tops, because we know that short crusts and shortbreads are quite pale, but this is just to stick the delightfulness on. And I'm just gonna keep going. I think I'm gonna add the almonds first, and then because the sugar will fall off. I'd rather the sugar fall off than the almonds fall off. So we're gonna do it this way, this way, and this way. And then it's quite generous. Remember, I have that other piece, which I can roll out and do later. So I'm going to add my little bits of shaved, very flaky shaved almonds. I'm just kind of punching up the standard. All right. So, you know, if the basil in the strawberries don't work, I'll let you know, and then you won't do it. But if these almonds on the biscuits don't work, I'll similarly tell you. And like I said, I'm using both basil and mint in the strawberries. And here I'm going to use both basil and, no, both almonds and sanding sugar. It's kind of like too much, right? Well, it sounds like too much, but you know, this is a holiday, and if it's too much, I'll just remake the video. So here's the sanding sugar. And it's this crystalline, it doesn't melt, it's very pretty. Just like that. It's just a gilding of the lily, as they say. All right, my lovelies. OMG. My shortbreads came out beautifully. My individual shortbreads, and they did expand quite generously. I thought I would get 6, and I ended up with 7 with that ending that I turned into 1. But if I had made I think that all of these would be thicker if I had managed to put that extra into the 6, because right now I have 2 quite thick ones and 4 less thick, but they're all gonna be fine. I started to eat this one just to try, and they're all cooled down now. So I'm gonna remove those, and we're gonna begin to make our chantilly cream. And I just wanted to, I just want to do it with the, you know, the whisk attachment, and I want to do, for now, 1/2 cup of cream, whipping cream, because, you know, it's late and I want to make fresh cream tomorrow, so I'm just making enough for a couple of these tonight. So it's 1/2. And we're gonna get that in going right away so that I can assemble this dessert and show you how it goes. Oh, cream wants to stick. I'm just gonna turn that on high, medium high. It's high to medium high. Put this back in the fridge. When this gets fluffy, I'm going to add a little bit, like just a dash of vanilla. And I'm going to add a couple of teaspoons of powdered sugar. And that's going to be, that's what makes it chantilly. So now I'm going to get my bread knife, and I'm going to cut one of these down the middle. It's supposed to be done when it's warm, and these are still warm. It's actually quite important that you cut them when they're warm. Otherwise, they will break. And we're going to take the bottom. As this is, oh, okay. So we have some soft peaks in there. So we're just going to do a 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla. You know, you could use plain, fresh whipped cream. Nobody's making you sweeten or flavor the cream. But this is punched up, like I said. So you put the base. There's a little piece that I get to eat later. You put the base in the bowl. I'm going to add a heaping teaspoon and a half of powdered sugar, confectioner's sugar. And then I'm going to whisk it up. And it appears to me, you know what? You need to scrape down the sides, but it's basically as quick as that. So now we have, I want to get 2 things. We have our macerated berries. And all the juice is in there, but we're not gonna put the juice on our biscuit. We're going to use a slotted spoon. And we're gonna put them, can you see it? Let's see if you can see it. Yeah. And you can smell, I can smell the mint, and I can smell the, let's try to get them on the biscuit, but you know what? It's in a bowl for a reason. I can smell the biscuit. I'm sorry, I can smell the, I'm not gonna add any more basil because those green bits get kind of dark and they are maybe off-putting for people. So we're just gonna take a bigger spoon. We're going to dollop on the cream. And of course I could easily have used my pastry bag to make it look pretty, but it doesn't much matter because it's pretty. And there's my almond crusted top. Now, is that not something to behold? And so we're going to add a nice dollop of whipped cream, which has been, like I said, enriched. When you serve it, well, I would just serve it like that. It's pretty nice looking.